Ladies and gentlemen, welcoming you all to International Affairs. This is broadcasting from the Dhaka's Gulshan studio. My name is Shamsul Alam Panto. As I bring you the updates from around the globe, at this moment we see a 48-hour ultimatum imposed by US President Donald Trump across towards Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz. Before I jump into the discussion, there are many updates I want to share. In the studio, we have John Dalton, who is our international consultant. I welcome him onto the program today. It's good to have you here, sir. Alongside, on Zoom, we have our geopolitical correspondent from District of Columbia, Washington, Norman Floyd Barnes, who shall be momentarily joining us in this program. I want to begin in the studio. There is many issues that I want to raise. However, I want to let everyone know that the two F-15 fighter jets belonging to the U.S. forces that has crash landed, the pilots have been safely rescued after a heavy fighting and a daring operation in Iran, according to U.S. President Donald Trump. Many more discussion topics to come following this show today. I want to know how you're feeling about it, the updates over the weekend.
Well, on that specific issue, I'm very, very happy that they were able to get the pilots out. It's a dangerous operation. I mean, some people may remember that when the United States tried to free the hostages which had been captured by the Iranian embassy in Tehran years ago, that Jimmy Carter sent helicopters in to do it, and the sandstorm caused them to crash together, and the resulting comprehensive failure of the mission. So the fact that they were able to do it in hostile territory and get the young man out, is a colonel, high rank, injured. So I think that it's a credit to the United States military that this kind of search and rescue operation can be done effectively, and hats off to them. And thank God that young man is alive. So that's a good way to start the story.
Yeah, of course, and it did create a lot of tensions because that very service member, the airman, was being hunted down, but not only by the rescue operatives looking for him in that area, but as well as Iranian forces, as locality people were also trying to hunt this person down. That is very important. And of course, there is a news that is coming out that I want to share with you all. Iran has approved the passage of ships carrying humanitarian and essential goods through the Strait of Hormuz, according to a letter by the Agriculture Ministry's Trade Development Office, according to Tasnim News Agency, which is a semi-operated governmental agency. So once again, the Strait of Hormuz, coming back to this pivotal point, we've seen the Bab el-Mandeb Strait coming under some kind of strain because of the Houthis, because of this nexus. The missile barrages are continuing, and not only so, the attention was taken away in the United States because of the Attorney General Pam Bondi and her firing from her position. Not only so, Pete Hegseth, the secretary, he has been seen almost forcefully letting out of duty some American chief of army staff, as well as those who have opposed a ground incursion into Iran. So that opens up a new kind of distance between the US president as well as those who live to serve the American administration. Your observation?
Well, my observation is that this kind of dissension in the ranks is totally extraordinary. It has no historical precedent, probably since going back to the Civil War, when maybe some generals left the Union Army, and when General Ulysses S. Grant was appointed. This is 1860. So we're talking a very long period of time of stability in the ranks until now. The Army Secretary, when he left, said that we are being led down a path by a madman, and that America was being destroyed in the process. But to relieve the command of 12 high-ranking military officials, to deny one-star generals to 2 women and 2 black men, shows that Hegseth is simply overwhelmed intellectually, strategically. He is just a walking, talking fool. And his inability to define a strategy for Trump to follow, his inability to mobilize the right resources to be able to go in a strategic way, do our job and get out, shows that he, from the very beginning, a Fox News host, which means there's a chance for us, a news host, given that kind of a top assignment, I mean, he never had the ability, he never had the experience, and he's been an embarrassment. But he's in a cabinet of embarrassing people, so he doesn't stand out as much as he might. But I mean, people who are in Washington and see the situation realize that if Pam Bondi is going to be sacked, he's got to be in line to be among the first guys to go, because he has embarrassed the president. He's put the country in a very, very difficult position internationally with his unplanned and failure to have a strategic hold on things. He thinks that if you just say tough, if you talk tough, then people are going to respond. But tough talk doesn't necessarily get the job done in diplomacy, and doesn't get the job done even in a strategic war. So he's the kind of guy that in the normal circumstances after this administration is over, he's going to have to face a very, very strong civil and criminal suits for what he has done.
Of course, that's very important, and some of these names that we have also mentioned, a cyber attack regarding the FBI chief, Mr. Patel, as far as I know, and a video of him circulating social media.
Yeah.
And the names that we just mentioned, Pam Bondi, Pete Hegseth, and then, of course, I think his name is Kash Patel.
Kash Patel.
Kash Patel. So the very administration being shaken by the enemy in various sorts. It's not only a warfare of bombs, missiles, if not radar systems. It's more of a economic warfare, and it's related to the dollar, to the export of oil from around the globe. Here in Bangladesh, we've been seeing huge queues and lines and the strains of economic difficulty. Over the weekend, we've been seeing how austerity measures have been put in place. Shops have been ordered to close at 6 p.m. just after sun down, which is very important to show how much this war will have an impact on our economy. So what are some of the issues that you find that we should discuss about? Not only that, today is Easter Sunday, it's a holiday for Christians worldwide, and even after there have been strict rules inside Israel, and Palestinians, Christians mark a very quiet Holy Week. The religious freedoms, we know we've talked about this before. However, as today is a holiday, I want to know how you're feeling about this.
Well, happy Easter to everybody, and especially all my friends and family, and to an old friend, Mary Cody. So happy Easter to you. Well, I think it's, I think, we have to look at the long duration of these fundamental faiths, Islam, Christianity, Judaism. They have such a common heritage in the Middle East. And that it has only been now under this administration of the Israeli government that you have had this kind of negative feeling, attacks on Muslims in Gaza and Lebanon, restricting access of Christians to certain holy sites.
Right.
It's the interfaith harmony, which had been in tradition in Jerusalem, is now being affected by people who are just absolute lunatics. And so I feel badly that we're not celebrating Easter in a more positive way. Let me also mention something about what I think is happening here. I think, as I said the other day, I think that everybody in Bangladesh, and again, this is an American wishing this for Bangladesh, I think you have to give a little bit of space to the new government. Let them try to do what they need to do. No need to complain. They're new at this in some respects. You saw that the Prime Minister had a meeting of the Business Council. That's a very positive step forward to stabilize the economy. I think the austerity measures need to be targeted more effectively. Everybody can't be in the same boat. Right. There are some positive, some primary industries that need to be protected. There are some situations that need to be protected. But they're seeking a balance. They're trying to respond to the crisis. They're not having cold feet, and so I commend them, and I ask people who are prone, like me, to criticize people, give them space. Let's let them see what they're doing. Huh?
Of course, that's important, the matter of time and the matter of handling such a global scale event here for 200 million people. So it is a huge challenge, and I want to introduce to our program today. We have Norman Floyd Barnes from District of Columbia. Very good morning to you, Norman. I hope you were hearing some of the discussions that we were having here in the studio, one including how Pete Hegseth's handling of the event and of almost 12 servicemen get almost removal from their jobs. And not only so, the airmen that both U.S. and Iran has been looking for has been rescued by the U.S. forces. I want to know more from you, how you are observing things. Of course, a 48-hour ultimatum always ends on a Sunday night, beginning on Monday when the markets open, and that is a huge indicator of how Donald Trump seems to have control over this kind of escalation in the Middle East. So I want to know, what are your observations, Norman?
Yes, first thing, happy Easter. Is Easter here in the United States is one of our most important holidays. So everybody is basically hopefully with their families and have some form of peace today. However, as we know that there was a uh, fighter jet shot down this weekend, and the two airmen was successfully rescued, different days, but they was rescued. And then there was another plane that was shot down that crashed in Kuwait, and that pilot's okay. And of course, it took fire. The helicopters, the rescue helicopters, took fire from the ground in Iran, part of the rescue. But right now, there's a sign of relief that the two down pilots are safe, and they are blessings from the government and the people that nothing else went along with that situation. However, the war is still going on. The attacks on the actually not American, the Iranian bridge signal a chain reaction response, and ultimatum sent out from the Iranians stated that they will attack the Gulf states infrastructure also, with a schedule of attacks on their bridges and other infrastructure areas. So the war is continuing, is getting more intense, and the lawmakers here are on holiday, but the president wants them to come back so they can talk about issues regarding the government and regarding their military position regarding the Middle East. So right now, uh, we are in a state of hopefully pause for the moment over here, just for the day, in terms of dealing with what's happening around the world.
Of course, a very important update regarding the attack on the Iranian bridge. Of course, that was one of the landmark infrastructure installations in the Middle East, and because of such a cowardly attack, Iran is, of course, planning on targeting various infrastructure of the sort in the Middle East, not only so in UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait, and likewise. It's important to understand where we are headed because we've seen how the UK, France, as well as Russia and China have said that any kind of aggression, any kind of military firepower usage on the Strait of Hormuz would actually oppose. And France's Emmanuel Macron seems to find himself on the right part of history right now. Donald Trump and Macron do have that staging of commentary regarding one another, and it is to see how one can mock the other. I want to understand the relationship, or as far as you see, other nations bringing into this war, other nations being pulled into this war, the importance on a global scale.
Well, Donald Trump is like the boy that kills his parents and then begs for mercy because he's an orphan. He has alienated all of his allies. He has all of these people who do not want to participate in his foolish war. Macron says, I get up every morning in dread looking at the newspaper and social media to see what Trump is going to say now. Starmer will not participate in endless war. The Prime Minister of Spain has spoken eloquently about not participating in the war. And also, not allowing Israel to even enter into the country. They've been prevented from coming in. So the European community is pretty much aligned with why are we, you've created this problem, why are you asking us to solve it? And if you would simply, the Strait of Hormuz was open before, it's closed on account of your action, why should we do anything to help you out of this fix? Now I think, I think Iran is playing their hand very, very well. As I said last week, the fact that they're not losing means that they're winning, because they were supposed to be eliminated in no time at all. And it was regime change and the uranium enrichment program, the nuclear program.
Right.
Well, that bridge that was bombed had nothing to do with either one of those. The language schools that were bombed has nothing to do with either one of those.
Universities being targeted as well.
4 universities have been targeted, has nothing to do with either one of those objectives. So this is simply the same kind of cruelty which has been exacted on Lebanon and Gaza being extended into Iran. Iran, however, has much more capacity to respond and to address these problems. And although the news is restricted, you can see Tel Aviv is under extreme pressure from these cluster bombs that are coming there. And people are marching in the street. And the Tel Aviv, mostly the Israeli population, are not in favor of prosecuting this war any further. It is absolutely leading to their destruction for no logical reason. So I think that this instability is actually worrying to me, because the people who are currently in charge of the military forces in Israel and the United States and in Iran, none of them would be considered stable characters. Trump and Hegseth, Netanyahu, and the people who are also in that small cadre of people who he's in charge with, and the Revolutionary Guard. I mean, I think they are basically, they see things in very binary terms. You either win or lose. They would bomb as much as they possibly could. They would bomb everything to be able to declare victory. So I think it's a very concerning moment right now, because people are looking for a win. Right now, nobody's winning absolutely. As I said, Iran is sort of playing their cards very well. Israel is now suffering the consequences of their cowboyism. And Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth and the Americans are basically suffering terrible consequences of reputational risk. So I think right now we're at a very, very delicate point. I think, as Norman has pointed out, this is a very, very delicate time. Okay, and hopefully nobody is going to throw fuel on the fire and accelerate this whole thing.
Of course, and what I picked out from your statement was who is on the winning side and what constitutes a win in this battlefield. What would be considered as that someone had leverage or someone was winning? Clearly, according to various media reports we've seen, Iran has the capacity to address all of the strikes that has been sent towards Iran, not only so having an effect. And you did mention about parts of Israel taking heavy ammunition fire, and Haifa port is one of those areas that has had strategic importance. Even last summer, we've seen in 2025 how it came under attack, as well as this currently. I want to ask Norman, there is a message that is coming out of the foreign minister of Iran, Abbas Araghchi, who tells Ishaq Dar of Pakistan, his a foreign counterpart in Pakistan, that US and Israel is to blame for regional instability. It's important. We see we are in a time, 35 days into this war, economic issues have been on the rise. Everything has been in the hyperinflation phase, and some even are suggesting that in the coming days a barrel of oil might even cost above of $150. So I want to know the economic burden that we see for the rest of the year. We still have many more months left of 2026, and how much longer the US president wants to bleed American resources, America's monetary resources, as well as human resources. Like we've seen over the weekend, a real scare did appear. Losing servicemen in foreign grounds, foreign territory, would be a very bad remark or a loss to United States of America and its military. Norman, how do you think about this?
I will not even attempt to engage to get into the mind of Trump and his administration and what they are planning. From my perspective, they are reacting, trying to have an offensive reaction to what they perceive to be a threat, meaning they are bombing critical infrastructure areas uh, that deal with human needs, basic shelter, uh, water, clean water, and power and energy. Uh, it has nothing to do with the regime change, has nothing to do with the so-called uranium deposits and how to gain that, but basically is to pulverize and, like you said, beat them back, send them back into the Stone Ages. This is affecting the people, affecting the region. It appears to be something similar to what they did or doing in Gaza and now Lebanon. That posture is one of, I believe, Israelis' philosophy, and we are now adhering to that. And but the issue is now that is appeared to be prolonging and creating a calculated response that is concise, dedicated to certain areas with a certain purpose, and is controlled. The control response should be of a concern, is stating that yes, you have hit us, you have destroyed certain things, you have in some cases killed many of the people, but we are still controlling our response, and basically we are dictating a new narrative, basically that change is coming, and what you're doing is basically prompting a situation of not returning to something that was in the past, but creating something new. So basically, you're now through your military response, creating alternatives for the world, our region, and basically our purpose is Iran is to basically to hold clear, stay focused, and maintain because they believe that the United States and its Western allies will not be able to hold out on this, and there will be concessions made in regards to how the New World Order will continue. Thank you.
Of course, very important updates coming from Norman Floyd Burns. And at this moment, also the U.S. Citizens as well as members of the press do want to know where is the end game for the United States of America in this war in the Middle East. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to take a short break. Afterwards, we discuss other updates pertaining to this war and how it connects in to various confrontations across the globe. Do stay tuned. Hello and welcome to International Affairs, and my name is Shamsul Alam Panto.
I don't see an easy resolution to this because every slight deviation from the plan,
opening an open war conflict with them,
testing nuclear missiles,
Russia's announcement of these supposedly successful testing,
special and exclusive footage that is being played on SATV's screen,
Really coming to terms with Hamas.
Damage estimated between this entire issue.
President Trump is expected to hold bilateral talks.
preserving biodiversity and tackling climate change.
We cannot protect the planet before we negotiate peace.
Where is it going? Is it understanding the needs of its people before the needs of this global world?
For China to come to agreement,
They will face better projects.
With President Xi of China and President Lee of South Korea.
Trump's White House that is in favor of these things.
simply not enough action being taken to address the problem of fossil fuels.
What their plan initially is towards the Caribbean, a place that has been met with two types of disasters.
Bangladeshi students at the same level of opportunity internationally and domestically.
International Affairs. Watch every Sunday to Thursday. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back on International Affairs. Today, I'm joined with John Dalton in the studio as well as Norman Floyd Barnes through Zoom in Washington, D.C. Coming back to the conversation, I want to begin with you, John. Of course, there is an issue that I want to pick out regarding the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who was in Istanbul on Saturday for talks on energy and navigation security efforts to end the war with Russia, according to the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. But the meeting at this time around, during the war that is happening on Iran, as well as how Volodymyr Zelensky had met other leaders, Arab nation leaders in Qatar and Kuwait, it's important to understand how it is going, as well as we've seen Italian Prime Minister landing in Qatar to understand how they can benefit from their relationship. So this is the time they're exchanging data, exchanging information. The allied nations are trying to figure out how they can stop these confronting wars. Of course, we have Russia on one side as well as Iran, both who are actually fighting wars on their respective ends. It has a spiraling effect. Of course, the two leaders, Erdogan and Zelensky, had discussed relations between the countries, peace efforts in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, regional and international developments. How do you see this? Leaders from various zones are now meeting up, understanding or trying to make understanding of the new world situation.
Well, it tells another story too. First of all, it's every man for himself. I mean, international self-interest. I mean, you have to determine your own interest in this issue. Italy goes to Qatar. England goes to areas that it protects in the Gulf area. France does the same thing. So everybody is looking to protect their own interests. Okay, so multilateralism, NATO, European Union, aggregations that have always held since over the last 50 years are starting to break off into individual members, how they each pursue their own interests. Turkey's a very interesting player. Very strong country. They could be a huge add if they come in on the side of Ukraine. Don't forget the helplessness or the futility, if you will, of the United States effort in this war is evident by the fact that they have had to reduce the sanctions on both Russia and Iran in order to enable fuel to go into the rest of the world. And so these were supposedly very, very positive, important steps to control Russia's aggression in Ukraine, to stop the Iranians from continuing to propagate their battles in the war. But Trump, in his infinite wisdom, of course, had to let each one of them off the hook on sanctions because he had stumbled so badly from a strategic point of view. Now, back to Erdogan. I think that Zelensky is playing his hand also very well. What he's doing in the Gulf Coast is saying, listen, we have had experience shooting down these Iranian drones before.
4 years of
So we'll give you the interceptors and teach you how to use these interceptors more effectively. And so now he is an exporter of this capacity. These are very cheap interceptors that can be used effectively. And so out of the war and out of their getting hammered by Russia, now they have become an exporter of defensive weapons. That's a pretty important, significant change. I also think that all the reports that are coming out, I mean, the drone warfare against Ukraine has been very, very successful. Russia sends massive amounts on
600 at a time in some cases.
But the battle on the ground, the territory on the ground, Russia is not advancing at all in eastern Ukraine. In fact, they're pulling back. And the number of people who have been killed on the Russian side is extreme. So I think that Zelensky is being pretty, very clever. If by any chance Turkey were to provide weapons to Ukraine to help battle against Russia, I think that's a game changer if it were to happen. And the fact that they're even talking is an amazing breakthrough, because Turkey has no love lost for Israel. Turkey also, in addition, is a member of NATO, and as such would be covered by Article 5 if anybody messed with Turkey. They are very much interested in peace in the Middle East and
Yeah, of course.
in rebuilding in Gaza. So all of these things are coming into play, you know, like the economic interests of Turkey also have to be considered, you know, because they are very much probably the biggest construction company or the most capable construction operators in the Middle East. So huge contracts in Gaza were this to happen.
Yeah.
You know, it's all a piece, isn't it? But everybody is now out for their own individual interests here. Group, NATO, and all of that kind of stuff, I think, my opinion, is being less and less important, and individual countries are making their decisions.
Of course, a very important observation. I actually enjoy your remark regarding everyone trying to look at their own interest, and that is how the playing field has forced them to think like such. Everyone's looking back at what they can do to make sure they are safe in this kind of global shock. I want to come to Norman Floyd Burns in District of Columbia. You were hearing us discuss in the studio how we see Volodymyr Zelensky visiting Erdogan, visiting Turkey, and understanding the rhetoric. And of course, Turkey's arms industry is a rapidly growing global player with defense exports reaching over 10 billion in last year, 2025. Of course, driven by that kind of goal, has become a major producer of advanced combat drones called the Bayraktar drones as well. So I want to know from Norman how you're seeing this. Would you agree with John here in the studio that everyone is actually trying to protect their own interest, given that this war is spiraling out of control? Norman.
Yes, thank you for the question. The situation globally is one of, and I agree with John, protect your own self-interest. Unfortunately, we're in a situation we cannot depend on our so-called allies, our partners. So right now, every country is looking at how do I protect my self-interest? Does that mean communicating with the so-called enemy, creating our own deals, providing our own security, dealing with other issues with how we plan for the future? The future is coming, has already started, and how we deal with current situations is one that each country had to make an individual decision on how do we protect our best interests. Is no longer aligning ourselves with a United States or someone else, some other country. Is basically what can I do to preserve my own self-interest. Ukraine is a very unique situation because it appears to be Ukraine is going to be known for the endless war and how to prolong a defensive response to aggression. The situation with Iran is Iran is taking a position of being attacked and defensive. A defensive response, everything they do is in terms of a response to a oppressive, they call it oppressive regime, the United States, a response to them, a response to whatever Israel may conjure up. But we will protect our self-interest. So everything we do is a direct response to their aggression. So that creates a psychological problem for NATO, because NATO is designed in the same sense of defense, not offense. The current administration in the United States wants to take the approach similar to Israel. We will create an offensive to defend our own interests. So that's basically a conflict right there. We're gonna hit you before you think about hitting us. That is not digesting very well with the countries, and particularly countries are now discussing why should we engage in conflict that doesn't protect our self-interest. So now the shift has changed. It's not like, okay, the group is going here and we're going to follow and do whatever the group said. That is no longer a credible way of responding, because now you can talk to the Gulf states and they can tell you basically our agreements of protection and support is not guaranteed, because we are now being attacked, and we are now supposedly have support from our big brother, the United States, and whatever, and they cannot complete and comply and provide the protection that they agreed to. So now the situation is that I have to take care of my own self-interest. I got to make deals. I got to provide a defense. I have to do certain things. No, that was not talked about before, but now it's the discussion every day. How do I protect my self-interest moving forward in the world? Trade and commerce is a big thing that has to happen. Everybody understand we have to have trade and commerce. We have to have energy. So whatever it takes to protect our self-interest, we will engage in. And hopefully is not a military one, but something that is agreed upon, which now shifts us into a new age dealing with the BRICS and dealing with the new world order. So now, welcome to the multipolar world. We will make adjustments as we go on, but basically we have to make our own interests, our own deals, so we can survive and live another day. Thank you.
Of course, important remarks from Norman Floyd Burns regarding trade and commerce, how important that is to almost all the sovereign nations around the globe, and how importantly we are seeing how war on multiple fronts can impact economies globally. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to take a short break. After the break, we discuss many of the news articles that we've still left out. Do stay tuned.
At 2 p.m. only on SATV and SATV Digital.
Hello and welcome to International Affairs, and my name is Shamsul Alam Pantha.
I don't see an easy resolution to this because every slight deviation from the plan,
opening an open war conflict with them.
Testing nuclear missiles.
Russia's announcement of these supposedly successful testing.
Special and exclusive footage that is being played on SATV's screen.
Really coming to terms with Hamas.
Damage estimated between this entire issue.
President Trump is expected to hold bilateral talks.
Preserving biodiversity and tackling climate change.
We cannot protect the planet before we negotiate peace.
Where is it going? Is it understanding the needs of its people before the needs of this global world?
For China to come to agreement,
They will face better projects.
With President Xi of China and President Lee of South Korea.
Trump's White House that is in favor of these things.
simply not enough action being taken to address the problem of fossil fuels.
What their plan initially is towards the Caribbean, a place that has been met with two types of disasters.
Bangladeshi students at the same level of opportunity internationally and domestically.
Welcoming all our viewers back on International Affairs. There has been a topic that has taken to storm, and I want to talk to John Dalton more on this issue. The U.S. security guarantees. We know that the United States has a lot of the Middle Eastern nations, Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, where they host their bases. And due to the war on Iran is now deeming all of these sites as legitimate targets, and that's how it has been running for the last 37 days. However, all of these nations that do host U.S. Frontiers or U.S. Strongholds, they have now come under attack. And of course, the U.S. security guarantees in this region would be a matter of question. I want to know how you felt about it as well.
Yeah, no, I'm following up on what Norman had to say, and I think it's very, very important. You know, the United States has military facilities in all of those Gulf cooperation countries, and the sort of implied story was that if you let us have an air base here, for example, in UAE, or you let us have a naval base in Bahrain, or you let us have multiple facilities in Kuwait, that will deter anybody from attacking you. And therefore, you can go about doing your business. So you look at Dubai, and you look at all of the business that was generated by that sort of security umbrella. That's all gone. I mean, nobody's sitting down now in a coffee shop saying, "Hey, let's go to Dubai, honey, for the weekend."
No, they would definitely not think.
They're not
that
thinking
way.
like that anymore. And that may be a long time before they recover from that. And this was all because of a false assumption that the United States would protect them if they let the United States put military facilities in those places. Now, Norman has worked in the Gulf, so he knows. He has worked in the UAE and so forth. He understands how people had a false sense of security. I believe that they had a false sense of security. They're now waking up to the reality, as we've been talking about, every man for himself.
Definitely, I want to ask Norman how you felt about what John had to say, his observations regarding the U.S. security guarantees, knowing for the fact that you did spend some of your time working in the Gulf nations. How you feel about it? The relationship between several of these Gulf nations with the United States of America in the upcoming days, especially as they become targets. Another story I want to add on, however, I want to know how you felt your time there in the Middle East, as far as I know, in the United Arab Emirates, Norman.
Yes, actually, I'm still in contact with them almost every 48 hours. I talk to them. The situation over there in the Middle East, and I noticed when I was there, I was actually one time walking down the Corniche in Abu Dhabi, and I was wondering how long, if the invaders, how long would it take for a land invasion to take over the country? I had this question about 8 years ago to myself. And looking at the situation right now, it appears that they are very vulnerable. The United States has made a commitment to them and working over there as a contractor. They depend heavily on our impact and protection. Unfortunately, as we see now, the Iranians understand this, and they are now pulverizing the Gulf states, basically to let them know that the guarantee made by the United States, they cannot possibly fulfill. We will ensure this by bombarding you. We will attack your infrastructure, certain things. We have surgical attacks that would affect your commerce, your trade ability, and trust, meaning you have a reputation of being the most safest place in the world. They are going to destroy that image. That image as someone has been destroyed as being the most safest place in the world. Right now, you're living in shelters. The community has been disrupted. Your ability to do trade and commerce has been compromised, all because you have decided to put your trust into a country, the United States, to guarantee your safety. This goes across the whole area. That trust is being tested right now. The ability of the United States and President Trump to hold their commitments is being tested. And at the same time, you have to understand that you have to live here. You have to work with the different regions, including Iran, after this over. You have to be in a position to comfortably coexist in order for you to be successful as a region in terms of what your intent is. So this is going to be a very hard thing to get over. It may take a decade, it may take 20, 30 years to even get that trust back. But in the meantime, you still have to do stuff to produce every day. So how is this going to happen? So there have to be some conversations about compromise, how we will comfortably coexist in this region. Military solution is not the answer. We're seeing that now, even with our attempts to, the government, our U.S. attempts to attack the so-called aggressors, Iran. It comes with a consequence. It comes with a lot of drama, and this is what we're seeing with the down planes is a prelude to the future. We're talking about one plane. Look what happened. Can you imagine multiple incidents at the same time, how the response in the region is going to be?
Of course, a very drastic contrast to what you just said regarding Norman. From Norman, I want to thank you for your contribution as we know that we might run short on the connection as well. So that was very important subjects that Norman brought to the table. I want to know, the last 5 minutes we want to discuss the effect. Donald Trump very specifically said that he would turn Iran and turn them back into the Stone Ages, or that is the type of commentary that he made. But the effects are making all the other nations around the world think of going back to the time of lighting up candles instead of using lights in their homes, because one important issue that comes up is the heat that every summer that we face, not only in the Middle East, also here in the tropical Bangladesh. And because of that, the dependency of energy and the scarcity of it being formed in a nation like Bangladesh is important. And that is how it has affected livelihoods here. I want to know, instead of sending Iran back to the Stone Ages, it is sending all the other nations trying to understand how they can depend on the coming months. How do you see it?
Well, I think that Trump's comments reveal a deeply troubled man, telling MBS that he could kiss his butt, and then saying those foolish things about bombing them back into the Stone Age, unleashing hell. I mean, this is not the language, the diplomatic language of somebody who is a well-developed strategic thinker. I mean, this is a cruel, low-class kind of a comment.
I have not seen Barack Obama, if you draw a contrast, even Joe Biden use such a language.
No, they would never.
Regarding this.
He's one of a kind, and let's hope that there's never a repeat of that kind. But let's also look at, the situation, as you said, is that we're all suffering from this. I mean, people. There's a story today in the Daily Sun, the Daily Star. Summer's coming. What's with all the air conditioning? How are we going to manage to do this? It's a living question. He has imposed on every person in the world some measure of pain, and whether people have a long memory, and the friendship with the United States and the agreement with the United States is short-lived. So, it's a sad lesson to learn that, power is not necessarily absolute, and the United States is not necessarily able to control the response from when they act like cowboys like that they're doing now.
Of course, very important discussions that we've had today. I must thank you, sir, for your valuable time as well as your thoughts and information regarding the situation in the Middle East and around the globe. I must also thank Norman Floyd Barnes, who has joined us from Washington, District of Columbia. Let me end on a very small notice. Today is Easter Sunday. It's celebrated worldwide by people of the Christian faith. A very happy holidays to those who celebrate. With that being said, I'm signing out on International Affairs. I shall catch you all on tomorrow's program.